This video is going to show you how to isolate your object using the pen tool. So the pen tool is near the bottom of your tool palette, and right now I have the convert anchor point tool on top, but I just have to click and hold with the mouse, and then I can choose the pen tool. What I'm also going to do is I'm going to zoom in with real close on my object, so Command plus to get real close. And you can see this object, there's these kind of fuzzy hairs coming off the end of it. The edges aren't very clean, which would make it very difficult to use the quick select tool because the quick select tool is going to try to select some of these fuzzier edges. But it has a very defined edge, so I can trace this edge using the pen tool. Drawing with the pen tool in Photoshop is like drawing with the pen tool in Illustrator. There's not as many shortcut commands for it, but it works quite well. So just like in Illustrator, I'm going to click and drag and place these points, pulling out these handles. Now when I'm doing this, you're going to notice that I am not trying to make it perfect. In fact, I accidentally added another point here, but I'm just going to keep going. So with this, I want to add the least amount of anchor points possible to trace my object. Now, some people put their anchor points very close together, and then they can follow the edge of their object more carefully. But I found that the least amount of anchor points I use, the better, because I'm going to get a smoother outline of my image. And I'm not trying to get things perfect quite yet. I will go back around my image and do that later. For now, I'm just getting my anchor points where they need to be. Again, using the least amount possible and just getting a rough angle or a rough estimate of where my lines, how those bezier curves are going to be. And I am placing a curve where I think the shape changes. Now this is a wooden object, it's handmade, so it's not perfect. And I can see there's a little shift there. So anyway, I'm making these points, pulling out those handles every time I place the cursor. And I'm almost done. Put a point here, at the top of the ear here, and then I'll complete my object. Now I'm going to go back to my pen tool and grab the Convert Anchor Point tool. This is where I'm going to start actually making those curves, those handles, line up with my object. And I can do it very carefully here, just by clicking and adjusting those handles. Whoops. If you do that, accidentally move the whole thing, Command Z will put it right back to where it was. And I have an extra point here that I want to get rid of. So I just go back to my pen tool, I grab the Delete Anchor Point tool, and I can get rid of that. I'm going to grab my Convert Anchor Point tool again and adjust. I want to make sure that my handles are not twisted around. That one was pretty twisted. So I can adjust that. I'm not going to do this to the whole image, but just give you an idea how it can look here. So do that with maybe just the head here, and you can see that looks pretty good. Now, I have already made a path and selected this cat with the pen tool. So instead of you watching me do that, I'm just going to grab that. Now, if you go over to the Layers palette, you're going to see there's a Channels and Paths. We're actually going to go to the Paths. Whenever you use the pen tool, you create a path, and this is that work path that I'm working on right now. I'm going to zoom out just a little bit so we can see the whole thing. Because I already did this in preparation, I'm actually going to click on the cat outline, which is the path that I made, which I have corrected and adjusted it so it really fits the outline of the cat. Now, to make that path into a selection, I have to make sure I'm on the path that I want. Then I go down to the bottom of the tool palette where there is that dotted circle, which is Load Path as a Selection. I just click on it, and now my path is a selection. If you can't find your Paths palette, you can go up to Window at the top of the screen and make sure Paths is checked. All right, so I've got my path selected. I'm going to go back to my Layers palette. And again, I can make a mask, but it's not a choice right now because my layer is locked. So I want to unlock my layer. Now I can change that path into a mask, and there we have it. Again, the checkerboard is representing a transparent part of the image. Now I didn't delete the background, it is just hidden. Black is hidden on this mask right here, and white is revealed. Now I'm going to zoom in a little bit because right on top here there's some black showing that I don't like. I can clean that up using my brush tool with black and white. Black hides, white reveals. And again, I make sure I have my mask selected, not my image, my mask. So I want to hide. So I'm going to choose black on top, and I'm just going to very carefully just kind of adjust those edges and hide that black. Okay. Now when it's just a little bit like that, I can also change my mask. When the mask is selected, a properties palette comes up, and I have this choice to feather, and I can feather my edge. Now I don't recommend you feathering it very much because it will look unnatural, but you can feather it a few points, a few pixels, just to soften the edge so that that black edge isn't as apparent. And I might go up to maybe 1 point or so, somewhere in there. Then if it still bothers me, I can just go with my brush and black on top to erase, or I shouldn't say erase because I'm not erasing, I'm hiding, and hide that black area. There's a little over here that I want to get, so I'm going to carefully hide that. And then the tip of the tail over here, I can just carefully hide that. Okay, so now if I'm over here working away, and I make a mistake, there's a couple things I can do. I can hit Command Z or Edit Undo. I'm actually going to redo that. Because this is non-destructive, I can always get it back. I can always reveal that space, and I can do that by putting white on top with either the arrow or the X key on the keyboard does it as well. I'm going to make my brush a little bigger. I'm going to use the right bracket key. I can go up to the top and choose my brush size, but I found the bracket keys work great. The left bracket key makes it smaller, the right makes it bigger. These are just to the right of the P key on the keyboard. Then I can just click and color reveal that space right back. I'm going to make my brush smaller again, black on top with the X key. I'm just going to make sure that I've hidden the black edge there as well. So I went a little too far, that's okay. White on top, there we go. So there we have it. Command 0 fits on screen. There is my second isolated object. And I did that with the pen tool, and I cleaned up my selection with the paintbrush tool. Now I can go to File, File, Save As, and I'm going to call that Puzzle Cat, Isolated, and make sure it is a Photoshop document. And it's being saved in my Project 2 folder. All right, see you next time.